My name's Katie Stewart. I'm the General Manager at the Victorian Music Development Office, which you'll all know as VMDO. So I think that a lot of you know us and know what we do, but if you're new to Networking Breakfasts, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We've been running 6 virtual networking breakfasts now since March, which has been really exciting and it's been such a great way to connect with you all while everyone's working from home. So what we do is the VMDO works to support the Victorian music industry in a variety of different ways. We run networking breakfasts like this one. We also run various professional development workshops and undertake research and ultimately look to connect Victorian music businesses with new contacts and new ways of working. So I'll tell you all a little bit more about what we have coming up at the end of today's networking breakfasts. We've got some workshops coming up over June and July, and I'll also announce our next networking breakfast session, which is going to come up in 2 weeks' time. So normally we run networking breakfasts at the White Sky Music Hub. We were running them from December 2018 through till February this year. So we hope to be back delivering in-person events sometime soon. But wanted to thank you all again for joining us online today. So I'm really excited about today's topic. We've got Matt Bird from White Sky Royalty Accounting talking to you all about crunching the numbers, which is essentially looking at practical ways that data analysis can apply to your business and the way that you work in the industry. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land of which I'm on today, which is the East Kulin Nation. And I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and also to any First Nations people here with us today. Thank you for being here. Today's topic is crunching the numbers, where we'll be looking at taking a look at the data analytics for the music industry. So this is going to be a really practical look at data and how you can apply it to your own business. So today's presenter is Matt Bird, who is Senior Royalty Analyst and Partner at White Sky. So a bit about Matt, and I'm taking this directly from your bio, Matt. I hope you don't mind. With a background in broadcasting and performance, Matt has been deep in the royalty side of the music business for the last 15 years. So you know that you can feel confident that he knows his stuff. Working with a broad range of local and international artists, labels and managers, Matt's primary mission is to ensure artist royalty payments don't become a casualty of this ever-changing industry. So this guy is chasing those loose dollars and making sure that artists are actually getting paid for royalties that are out there at the moment. So I'll hand it over to you now, Matt, to start the presentation.
Cool. Cheers, Katie. Hey, everybody. Thanks for swinging on by. I noticed there in the poll too, it looks like other is the kind of the biggest bracket. So I know obviously Katie can't include everything, but if you want to maybe just put in the chat, if you did other, maybe just type in, what it is that you do. And I guess too, like I would say, like there's a lot of people who probably are artists and maybe self-managed and maybe manage their own label and publishing as well as being an artist. But I would put in there, like, what are you in this room as? Like what hat are you wearing in this room to get something out of the idea of data analytics and stuff. Yes, that'd be cool because, you can know who we're talking to. Quick little intro on me, I guess. We're at White Sky and the royalty side of things. White Sky, obviously, if you've heard of us, cover a wide range of music business management angles, from sort of day-to-day bookkeeping to sort of business management, looking after tax, looking after anything to do with the numbers side of things is generally our jam. And then my little corner of the world is this royalties thing. And just to sort of clarify that a bit as well, I think, you know, every cab that I get into, and the conversation opens, oh, so what do you do? It's I work in royalties. Oh, APRA. It's like, no, not really. It's like royalties and APRA are the kind of synonymous. But when I say royalties, it is that, but it's mostly to do with like record company income, the royalties from record companies or publishers, that side of thing too. So we're not just talking about you know, radio. How much do I get for a play on radio? There's a sort of wide gamut of things that we look after. And I guess in my role, we do a number of things. One of the things is chasing down missing royalties. We'll you know, review statements against the contract and make sure that the money's all there, then there's no mistakes. We also sort of create royalty statements on behalf of small labels, or if you're an artist, you need to pay a producer, you've got to deal with the producer for points or something, we can help out there. And then the third side of it is, I guess, why we're sort of here today, and that's sort of looking at data. Yeah, let's get into the thing. I'll see if I can share the screen. Got it. I think that's, so is everyone seeing a slide there? Yep, okay, so that's thumbs up, good, cool. All right, yeah, so yeah, I mean, you know, I'm sure you've heard, as I think many people have said, that like data is everything. We've got to use data. Big data is such a thing now. We've got so much of it. It's the thing that's going to, you know, make everything happen. And it's something that we spoke a lot about at work, because like when we're reviewing statements, you know, we have a lot of data. We've got a lot of stuff, and we've got systems that can manage that stuff. So it's like, well, how do we use that data to sort of do something good? And you know, with the sort of skill sets that some of us have, we're able to slice and dice and produce graphs and things over time and all this crazy, wild, wonderful stuff. But we always come back to the questions like, yeah, but what value is this to someone? Like it's all good and well showing off fancy graphs and it all looks pretty funky, but you know, how is that going to help someone? Or how can we use that to put it into a context that it can help someone? And that's, yeah, I guess that's the sort of crux of things. I, and along with yourselves, probably been to a lot of conferences. I know Chris, who comes out and does Fast Forward, I guess not this year. Nothing's happening this year. But, you know, seeing him speak about data, he's been deep into the sort of major label side as well as other things, checking out data and crunching the numbers for the record companies, you know, to help out A&R departments. You know, people sort of can look at the data side of things as like a helping hand for A&R. It's not just ears now. It's kind of like, you don't have to be a tastemaker. You just have to kind of read the numbers and see how that helps. So that's kind of good and well. And when you're massive, when you're a Universal or you're a Warner or something like that, and you acquire these data analytics companies and they've got the power to crunch all these numbers and spit things out, that's all great. But again, it comes down to a sort of street level. How does that help us? It can help, but I'm hoping that I can show you at least a few little things to sort of, I guess it will hopefully get you in a bit of an idea that you can sort of do this stuff at a certain level, and that there's tools out there to sort of help you do your own little number crunching, and also look at where there are other places you can go for this sort of information. So going back to 1996, like pretty much the birth of the internet, not the birth, but you know, the dawn of the internet as we know it, I guess, in the mainstream. Bill Gates' big quote, "Content is king." So that was, at that time, people were excited about the amount of content. Like, you know, obviously content existed, books exist, and TV and radio and all that sort of thing. But now there was an ability for everyone to have a space on this internet thing, and it was content. You could have a web page about your favorite conspiracy theory, about your family, about your pets, about whatever. So much content that goes out there. I guess, you know, we might take it for granted these days, but that was probably a big thing in the mid-90s, to think that this can all happen. And This was Bill Gates' kind of idea behind it. And now it seems that data is king. Like I can't attribute that quote to anybody, but I hear it a lot that, you know, data is king. You've got to use the data. We look at the, you know, massive corporations of today, the biggest companies of today, your Facebooks and Googles, and they're using all this data to make money. So it's their business model. So Spotify as well, to a point, you know, like they're not making money out of the music necessarily. They're making money out of providing you what you need to stay on their platform for longer. That's it, eyes on their screen. And the way to do that is through data. Like they know you listen to this, so therefore you probably like this because that person listened to that and they also listened to that. And that's their sort of number crunching thing. So data in that sense is their business model. Now, I know that I'm pretty sure that everyone, without reading directly the everyone's what they do here, I'm pretty sure you're in it for the content, not for the data. If you're an artist, you're not in the industry for the data. So this is where these worlds collide. And I think going back to what I was sort of saying in the beginning is, like, we might have a lot of data, but what's helpful? What can we do with it in an industry where content really still is king? Sure, the platforms might be data driven, but what we're doing while you're in this room, it's content. That's what you do, content creators. And so another quote that I sort of found around the place, which I think goes towards reconciling these ideas, is that context and data is king. I think you can have all the data in the world, but if you've got nowhere to frame it, it's just numbers, it's just ones and zeros, or it's just pretty graphs that someone's going to throw at you and try and impress your pants off because everyone should be impressed by a graph, right? So I think having the context and a reason behind the data, I think one of the things that came to mind a little while ago while I was at a conference was, again, data is king, data is the answer. But then my thought was, all right, well, if data is the answer, then what's the question? Like, what is it that you want to ask? I guess data can be a lot of things, but you probably want to know what question you're asking. And a lot of the time people don't. And going back to what I said at the beginning, us sitting in a room talking about what we can do in our business, we've got heaps of data, let's use it. Yeah, but how? Like, what actually makes sense to the clients that we work with or to a wider, you know, audience? You know, we're not fooling ourselves. We're not a startup tech company. We don't have the resources to get into that. But on a level, if we could work out what the question was, what people wanted to ask, then we could hopefully go towards using the data to sort of, you know, provide tools or advice or services or whatever it is. And hopefully, I think that's what we can help give to you guys today. So yeah, just that general why do we want data? I think it also comes from having the ability. You know, we can, so we do. Don't necessarily think if we should. Jurassic Park, I think it was Jeff Goldblum. You know, music streaming, we've got access to that stuff now. We never had access to that stuff. So all this data gives us a lot of information. There's a lot of participants around the world tuning into Spotify. We can have all that and everything's tracked. So we can have the data because it's there. And then how can it be used? So just broad strokes, people will say you can use the data for marketing and touring. So targeting geolocations, you can find out from various places, you know, your singles big in Denmark. So maybe that's where you tour next, or you spend more of your marketing money in that location. Using the geolocation stuff is great for that sort of thing. And future sales and future budgets. So looking at what happened and then trying to translate into what may happen in the future. That's kind of really, you know, bare basics of, I guess, you know, how this stuff that you can get hold of could be used. And we'll go into a bit more detail on just a couple of those things. And I also ask myself, so what's out there and what kind of data is there? You know, data encompasses a lot of things. And these were the sort of, I guess, the categories that came to mind when I was thinking about this. So you could look at, and some of these things may or may not relate to your area. Like if you're in touring, maybe the sales side of things doesn't really, affect you at all. Or if you're a producer or someone in a studio or you own a studio, maybe the sort of, the Facebook likes factor doesn't affect you. But yeah, the four sort of main industries four main aspects for this that I found, the kind of clout analysis. So companies like Chartmetric and Sound Charts. So I think I've got, let me see if I've still got this. Okay, so this is, if you haven't seen it before, just a quick thing. This isn't a private thing. This is not a client information. This is all publicly available. If you have a Chartmetric account, you can just pick what artists you want and you can see information about them. So you could look at flight facilities and you can see all these pretty graphs and stuff. That's what we love. You see Spotify followers, you've got monthly listeners, fan conversion ratio, I don't know what that is. Instagram followers, YouTube subscribers, TikTok likes, TikTok followers. So all of this stuff, this is Chartmetric analyzing the data that they've got to give to you for something. And there's really no answers as to what do I do with this? You do what you like. You can look at geolocations, you can look at time periods, you can look at a million things there. But point being, this is the idea of the clout analytics. So you're seeing what your fans are looking at, I guess, online. And Sound Charts is a similar thing. I believe Sound Charts also pulls in sales information, or not sales necessarily, but whatever publicly available, say, streaming numbers there are, I think, and put that against the sort of social media analytics. Another one is the sales analysis. So you've got data from your sales. And again, another example, I think we've got, find where my stuff is. Yeah, so you got Spotify for artists, probably something you've seen, but you can go in, look at your music, see streams over time. This is just a band I used to play in, so it's like 10 streams is pretty good for a month. The sources, like where it all comes from, what countries. So this is again looking at, say, geolocation data analytics. So hey, maybe we should tour to the US next. That looks like where our stuff's happening. Or plunge more money into marketing. If you can throw money at your social media in those countries, maybe that's going to convert better for you. You see your top cities, all that sort of stuff. So again, I'm sure a lot of you already have that. It's something that's easily sort of doable and gettable. Cost analysis was another area that I thought is something that you can use. There's, I guess, guys like White Sky and other companies, like accountants in general, can probably look at this kind of stuff in deeper level. But as like just a basic kind of thing, something that you probably all look at every day, the budget for the next record, what are your recording costs, what are they all broken down, your marketing costs. You can put in your budget there, and a really simple, like getting down to the bare basic definition of analysis is what you thought happened versus what did happen, budget versus actual, the variance between those, and then the percent variable if you kind of want to. So having planning your album release, you've got your costs for the budget, and then you can plot in afterwards what you actually spent. Super, super simple, but this is the kind of thing that can say next time, all right, well, okay, well, we clearly, spent a lot more on the studio hire, so we've got to put more in the budget, or we've got to go to a cheaper studio. Whatever these little things are here, so like a big 100% overspend on your print ads, for example, this sort of stuff, it's really simple kind of ways to look at this information. I know Excel can be kind of scary, and, you probably do an entire year's worth of sessions on using Excel. There's a lot of stuff, but it can be super simple as well. I've known core concepts. You're just taking one cell away from another and dividing something by something to get a percentage. Yeah, super simple way to do it. And we'll get a bit more into, I want us to just spend a little bit of time in Excel because there's sort of no way around it. If you want to crunch your own numbers, that's what you're using. That's really the bottom line. You can, head to your Spotify for artists and see these kind of things and note these things down and use it however you want to use it. But there's sort of not much flexibility here. You're kind of given what you're given. You can maybe look at, I think you can probably select. Can you? I don't think you can really. So you can't really filter this by anything. It's just sort of giving you the information. But yeah, no way around it. If you want to look at this stuff yourself, you're going to have to get a little cozy with Excel. And so, all right, and so the fourth kind of area of data that you can look into is industry-wide data. There's a lot of companies doing this. Like I said earlier, Facebook, Google, these companies, they use all that data for their own ends, but there's a lot of people out there just crunching numbers because they love crunching numbers, and it's good to do. Sure, they'll get subscribers, they'll monetize it however they monetize it, but it's not, I guess, the main reason. So there's a company, Media Research. If you're familiar with them, you'll know what they're about. But really good. They're good at crunching numbers, and then they're good at having their little 2 cents about it as well. So little editorializing about the state of the industry. Like it's been a while now. I mean, streaming's around and it's pretty entrenched here, but it wasn't that long ago when the industry was, the bell was tolling for the music industry. And it was like this, and it hasn't taken long, but like it's kind of weird time to be alive to see this massive shift, from physical and then iTunes downloads, piracy, and then streaming, and then the uptick. And so tuning into these sort of industry sources, Media Research as an example, and those guys putting together these sort of trends and having a look at sales and, the net worth of Universal over time and, where they were and where they went to and how they came back and how much time. All that stuff, again, like right on the ground level, may not be that impactful for you, but it's a good area to sort of look at if you're interested in that kind of stuff. And the numbers are crunched for you. So that's kind of a good way to do it. Now, what tools are there out there for you guys? Like I said, Excel's kind of the one. Like, you can talk data all day long, but if you want to sort of be able to manipulate or look at your own data, Excel's the best place to be. So yeah, I'm going to jump in and do a little bit of a play around, just maybe show you a few little tricks, and it might be enough that you can Google how to do more down that avenue. Some of you might know how to do these little tricks, but even some of the people that I work with who work with numbers all day, they're accountants and they're into tax, not necessarily all over Excel, but some of them aren't 100% sure on these sort of things either. So it's a simple concept, but it might just be one that opens the door to a lot of things and maybe demystify Excel and not be so scary. So we'll have a bit of a look at that. And also, hold on a sec, there's Excel, bring on the pivot tables. That's where we're going. That was from Gabs. Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna crack open for you, because it really is like that sort of simple thing. My world generally revolves around pivot tables and VLOOKUPs. We won't go into lookups, but pivot tables might at least give you a bit of a helping hand. And then we'll look at a few tools that I've sort of created over time. So right back at the start of the conversation, as I was talking about me and my colleagues at work, trying to wonder how we can use data. Data's the answer, what's the question? So we came up with a question. Well, the question came to us, actually. We'll speak about that in a bit, but let's have a bit of a quick look at pivot tables for you. So I won't go into super great detail, but as I mentioned, I think once you sort of get the core concepts of these things, it might just open a door. Like that's, okay, anecdote time. Being a young sax player, I was about to, in high school, starting to learn in my first year. Wasn't really into it. I come off a few years of, playing the concert band and classical sort of stuff, reading dots on a page. And I was kind of done with it. That was it. I wasn't really that excited. But then the next year I had a different teacher and he showed me a blues scale, a minor pentatonic. And he said, I'm going to play these chords on the piano and then you play these 5, 7 notes in any order you want and it'll work. And the idea that I could improvise and make things up, like that little blues scale door opening was just like, it's like, it kept me doing things. But sometimes you just need that little bit of something to kind of, crack the top open, and maybe deep down inside you really are a data analyst and you're just going to quit the music industry and come work with me. Could be an idea. All right, so pivot tables, essentially what they do is take sort of a lot of data and make it into something manageable. And it basically sort of just combines data, I guess. I kind of use it as a verb now. I don't know if it is, but I want to pivot something, have this data, or even if it's, I don't know, in my shopping list, I need to pivot this down to the essentials, like, put them into categories and scooch that down. Instead of 15 things, give me the 3 things or 3 groups of things. So it sort of takes, many columns of data and many lines of sales in this instance. And we can just sort of go zoop and suck that down to the things that we want to know. And it's super flexible and it's pretty easy. The first thing that people ask is, how do you skip your cursor around like that? Control arrow keys. That's goes to the top and the bottom of a range. So you can just skip around and do what you need to do. That's not part of this, but people always ask. So a pivot table, really simple sense. You grab your data. Oh, actually, first things first. Sorry, I've got some notes here I should refer to. I wrote them. But important part is like spending time making sure that your data is how it needs to be. So making sure that it's complete is one thing. So if I look at this cat number column, I can scroll down. I can see there's some gaps in here. So that tells me, for one, that if I want to look at, say, how many units of this catalog number did I sell, I'm going to miss some information here. So however you retrieve that, there's other ways to do things, which might probably a bit too much for this conversation, but something to be aware of. However you get it, you need to, if you want to look at catalog numbers, if you want to crunch numbers by cat number here, you need to make sure that you've got all the cat numbers. Otherwise, you're missing information. The other thing is you want to make sure that the data is consistent. So it's the old adage, shit in, shit out. Like if your data is kind of all over the shop, you're not going to get really great results, or they're going to be inaccurate at worst. It might be misleading. So things like, spelling mistakes in the content game and the metadata game, this is it can be a pretty onerous task to try and cleanse all of your information to make sure that it's, it is what it is. If you take, this song, Somebody That I Used to Know, it's a really long kind of title. So you'll get reports that come back with somebody that I used to, because they ran out of characters. It might be somebody that I used to know with the letter 2. I mean, who knows? It could be anything. You could be getting back all sorts of interpretations of one thing, and you don't want that. You want to make everything one thing. So, for example, here, if I look at this title, got the album title's album 1, but then it's been reported to us as album 1 ONE as well. So if I want to look at how many sales for album 1, I'm not going to get it because there's 2 album 1s, 2 different answers. It's not together. So if it's something that you want to do, you can find and replace is a good thing to do. So you can say, all right, everywhere that there's album 1, that's Control F, by the way, find. find album ONE and replace it with album 1. You hit replace all, and then that's done. So that's the kind of way you can, I guess, help that data. There's other ways to do it. I'll undo that because sort of at least want to show you how it affects these pivot tables. So yeah, so that's the, I guess the main thing before you even start this stuff. And you might find out along the way that things are not quite as they seem. You might have to go back and fix things, but that's the good thing, is that you can do that. And what else? Oh, and the other thing too that you want is to make sure that you've got the data that you need, essentially. So if I have a look here, there's a column, and this column could be either net receipts or it could be PPD. So net receipts as in, you know, if say when you're reported for streaming, quite often they won't have in this column 0.0062. They'll just have the lump sum of the money. But sometimes instead of the lump sum, they put in what the price is. So PPD is price. So it could be like 99 cents for iTunes. So you need to know, if you want to look at what's the average price of my album in a country, whatever, you need to make sure that you're actually looking at a price, not at a lump sum, because these people, whoever gave me this information, they sort of lumped two different things into one thing, which I hate. It's a horrible thing, but you just need to be aware of that and make sure that you've got what you need. So if you want to look at price, you can add yourself another column to say, all right, well, where there's a price, I'll put a P next to it. And where it's a lump sum, a net receipt, I'll put an N next to it. So now I can look at what a price per unit is, because I can clearly see that each line has a type, and the type is price or net receipt, so, you know, a sum of money. So that's probably the third important thing, is just to make sure, if you know what you want to look at, make sure that the information is there for you to find, because otherwise you're not going to find what you're looking for. So pivot table, summarize, take, you know, thousands of lines of information that's all horrible and scary with lots of dollar amounts everywhere, and make it manageable. So Control A's select all. Now if you go to insert, and you've got pivot table there. So it'll give you an option here. Select the data range. You already did that by doing Control A, or you don't have to do Control A either. If you want to just select a certain amount of data, you can do that. However it is that you select your data, select it, pivot table. You've already selected your data and you want it in a new worksheet, that'll pop up. So usually leave that there. Okay, and this is what it gives you. So this is where the shit's going to go down, and this is where we tell it what to do. These are all of our column headers. So we're going to use the column headers, and that's very important as well. You want to make sure that all your columns are labeled with stuff that you understand, because that's the key to all of this. So what do we want to do? I don't know, who knows? We could look at, so we've got the title field. Now by dragging it into this area here, this is how we start populating this thing. So I guess you'll probably get in a bit of a vibe of how this works. It's essentially just moving things about. So you can drag bits and pieces down to here. This little area is your rows. Over here is columns. So let's try format across there. So for format in our data, the column for format, it's given us like what type of sale it is. So is it CD? Is it vinyl? Is it a download? Is it a stream? This is the information that we've got in. And again, it's sort of like, it's all, you look at it down here and it's sort of like, what are you going to do with this? This is too much information. But this whole pivot table thing allows you to see through that stuff. So for example, now we're going to look at, we've just decided that we're going to look at sort of all of our songs. So one instance of each song. And we want to look at what formats each song was exploited in, I guess. This isn't the best thing because a song won't be a CD sale generally, but anyway, bear with me. As an example. So we've sort of set up what we want to find, and then we can look through our list here again in the pivot table fields, and we can look at earnings. So that's the royalties that we were paid. So that one goes into values here in the bottom. So the bottom right corner, values, that's where you put your numbers. That's where you want the kind of magic to happen, really. So once you dump that in there, it will just automatically populate this stuff here. The formattings can always be better. But yeah, that's like as simple as that. That sort of just gives you a view. And like, it can be simpler. I just sort of used columns and rows and values to show you. You might not care about this analysis. This might not help you at all. You can take that format column, just drag it back out of the way. That goes away. And now you're simply left with how many earnings, like what your earnings were for each of your products. So got your album sales there and all your songs, different songs that you've sold and how much they earned in total. That's kind of really simply taking 2,500 lines of data and putting it into, what's that, 25 odd lines. And it's just super simple to see then. And it doesn't matter how much of this data you've got, really. Like, this could be 1,000,000 lines. It might make your machine fall over at times and it might be a bit of a big file. But the concept, if you had 1,000,000 lines in here, it would still reduce it down to how many unique songs you had or song titles. So I could, you know, this is a similar thing, pull that out of there, the title. Say you wanted to look at it by cat number for some reason, you can do that as well. So here's all your catalog numbers and the earnings. And then you can combine that. You can have a look at the catalog number and the song title and see what your earnings are there. So really, this is, you can do anything that you need to do. So here's an interesting thing you can see, and this is why I was talking about having complete data before. So obviously somewhere along the line, see we've got our catalog numbers here with our title. The way that Excel is grouping this stuff, it's looking for unique examples of each of your sort of variables here. So it's saying I've got this cat number and there's a line that has this cat number and this album title, and this is how much that is. But I've also got this same catalog number with a different title, and that's how much this is. Now, this is why you want to make sure there's no spelling mistakes or different sort of versions of the one thing. So we've only got one album, that's its catalog number there, but it came to us misspelled. One was album number 1 and one of them was album ONE. Now we don't want that. So that's why before I did a find and replace type thing, just to make sure if I take that and replace ONE, replace it with album 1. So that's done that now. So now that other version of album 1 doesn't exist, if I come in here, you can right click and refresh it, you can see now album ONE is gone. So now I've got what I need. Like, I'm not going to mislead myself. I've got the catalog number, that's a singular cat number, and the title, and that's how much. There's the same album, but it's got a different catalog number. That's fine, because the different catalog number is, that's the vinyl version, and that's the CD version. So that's, might be moving quickly with the find, replace hotkeys and things, but don't necessarily worry about it now. Like I said, there could be we could do a whole Excel course one day, go through the nitty gritty, but I guess I want you to understand the concepts behind having clean data and how that affects these things that you want to do. And then just looking at this pivot table idea. So again, we'll do another one because repetition is kind of handy. So again, you can select all, or you can select the data you want. If you only want, you know, the statement and the cat number, you can do that. Insert pivot table. It's already selected. Yes, new worksheet. Okay. So here we are again. Does the same thing every time. You'll see this a lot if this is something you want to do. So this time, let's see, I think the statement column was period. So now we've got time involved. Could be something that you want to look at. You want to look at 12-month album cycle. And remember, like, you're kind of creating what these Spotify for artists portals have, and maybe your own artist royalty portal. If you're an artist, you have a deal with Sony or Universal, sort of most of them these days, Cobalt particularly. They've got all of their sort of online portal analytics tools, which is great. Some of them are really cool, and some of them are quite flexible, and you can get in there and do a lot of stuff. But this is essentially doing that. So it's like, don't be, dazzled by the brilliance of a fancy, colorful graph and, motion graphics on a website. This is what we're sort of doing. It's a bit cruder, but it's exactly the same thing. So yeah, we've got an album cycle. We want to see over time, how did that album do? Now, what's our question? Why do we want to do that? We want to look at maybe our next album. What kind of sales might we be looking at? What kind of trends might we be looking at? If you're noticing your trends sort of having a big bump and falling off really quickly, well, how can we extend that? These are the sort of questions I guess you want to start with to then look at your information and try and work out. So we'll look at over time, and we don't want to do it by title. We don't care what the title was. There's 26 songs on this record. I think it's A to Z. We don't care about the individual songs. We just want to look at all of the songs and all of the album sales and all of the streams and all of the downloads, all that together, how much money over time. So again, looking at this, you think, I don't know, because it's broken down into a million things, but this is where pivot tables are great. It can just condense and summarize the information for you. So again, real simple, put our earnings. Here we can grab it from the right hand, the pivot table fields, grab that, just drag it into the values area, and it will put it straight in. So again, just to sort of buzz over it, we took our statement, dragged it down to where it says rows. That's the most, rows and values is where you'll be the most. Columns can be helpful sometimes. I don't find myself using them as much. So, if you're, it's hard to get used to this stuff unless you're doing it. So if you're just having a play around at home and you forget everything, head for the rows first. Drag your thing into the rows and your numbers go into the values. That's kind of, if you remember that, then you can maybe mess around with other stuff and see what happens. But when everything gets too much, aim for the rows and the values. So here we've got a really simple, income over time now. So this column happens to be in order. And this is showing that over time. Sometimes I can make that artificial. So here you can look at, this actually doesn't sort of descend in order now. This is out of whack. We're looking at different periods. But a lot of times, if you want to change something like that, if you find yourself saying, shit, I don't want that to look like that. If you right click in a pivot table, it'll give you a good few options. So sorting is obviously what we want here. So you can sort oldest to newest, and that'll get you back here. And with this stuff, we won't go into, there's a million things you can do, but once you've got this, you could do your own, you can go to insert, and I've got different ways to do these things, so I hope this works. But you can insert yourself a line graph. So that's just really simple, just highlight your pivot table, go to insert, and you've got charts here. Do it as a pie, do it as a bar, but over time makes sense as a line. So you can see between 2014 and 2019, this was the sales pattern. 12 months, we spiked big time and came down to kind of nothing. So, a 12-month cycle, that's what it looked like. Another thing that I think is probably good to know, and we'll move off pivot tables in a bit. I'll show you a few more examples of what you can do, but it could be, this could just get you to sign up to an Excel course or Google some things or whatever. So let's say you've got all this information, but you don't want all of it. You only want certain months. So let's say we want a year. So there's a little arrow thing filter here. And so you can see all of the things are selected, but if I unselect these, I could have unselected all and just selected the ones we wanted, but here we are, we're here now. All right, so this gives us 4 quarters of information. So we're just looking at these 4 quarters now. If I hit OK, that's what it's sort of going to give us on our graph. So it's super simple kind of tool, this pivot table thing. You can do a million things, and I use them non-stop. And it's really the way to sort of, the best way to crunch numbers, to take something that, you know, this is 2,500 lines, is kind of nothing in the scheme of data. This is just a little chunk that I grabbed for these purposes, but you're getting your tune core statements in and you're doing okay on the streaming side of things. You're going to have tens, hundreds of thousands of lines, and it doesn't matter. You just select it all, make sure your data has headers. I say make sure your data's all consistent. It's hard to know, like for you to scroll through this stuff and find that, oh, there's a misspelling, that's going to be hard to do. But this is where once you have a pivot table in place, you'll be able to see that. So you can keep your eye out for that information. And then the pivot table is dynamic. So whatever you do to the data over here, if you pop back and right click and refresh, it'll update to whatever you change the data to. So it's handy like that as well. So yeah, so income over time, that's a kind of good one. Could be for your next album release, like I said. This is I guess the context around why you'd want to do this stuff. So I just put together a few things. So what's this? This is units. So up here, we've got the configuration. That was a column back here. You can see one of our columns basically tells us whether a line is a track or an album. That's it, just 2 things. So I can say, all right, show me all the income or the sales for albums versus tracks. Here, I just wanted to look at how many album sales, regardless of format, could be CDs, vinyl, downloads, whatever. How many units in a month did I make? I happen to have the title there. You might not want the title. You can take it out of your rows, drag it out, and it's there. Another thing sort of just quickly did was have a look at the source and the album sales. So where did I sell my albums? Could be a simple thing to do. Again, all of these little examples are the same thing. It's just highlighting the data, insert, pivot table, drag the things into the place that you want to know, and you're going to know it. What's this? Earnings? Yeah, earnings by title. There's one. This one I've just selected, so I've put that into the filters area. So this is the 4th, I guess, little window you want to look at. The filters window will allow you to, again, narrow kind of search down. So I wanted to look at unit sales by period, but I only wanted to look at downloads. That's all. So I can drag the format into there, and then from there, a little down arrow, and just click downloads. Over here, I did the same thing, but I made it streaming instead. If I wanted to look at CDs, click CDs. No CDs for a song, obviously, because we didn't do CD singles. Who does? Because again, I've filtered this thing by just song A. That's all I want. I want to look at song D, choose song D for our filter, and that'll pop out that information. Yeah, really, look, that's kind of it. That's hopefully demystified a little bit. You don't all have to become Excel experts. It can be as infinitely complex as you like, or as simple as maybe just looking at this. But then again, we come back to why. What's the question? Well, maybe our question here was looking at sales over time. So we could plan for our next release and maybe look at, I don't know, doing a bit more marketing early, because we didn't really, it took us 2 quarters before there was a kind of takeoff. So maybe we want to push further there. Maybe we want this line to keep on going up from June 15, you know, sort of stepped off in that 4th quarter. How can we continue sales? Maybe we'll plan a marketing campaign around there. Whatever it is, and it's just open up some doors for yourself. And from a simple group of data, say from TuneCore or AWOL, you know, the enemy of people like me is when is when record companies or whatever send you a PDF statement. Don't want to see it. No good to me. And also having information that looks pretty, that's not conducive to crunching numbers. I know, like I'm sort of thankful these days that we get a lot of income through and a lot of reports from TuneCore or from AWOL, these kind of places where it's just a structured table of data. That's it. Could be pet sales. I don't know. It could be anything, but it's consistent. It's columns, it's sales lines. If you're using an aggregator, ditto AWOL again, like I said, TuneCore could be any of those guys. Most likely Bandcamp is one. You're going to get data that looks like this. I've already got their headers there. Sometimes there's a lot of crap as well. Like, you know, hot tip from the inside, like over here, you can go, you've got a little paint tin guy here. Like, you know, change a color to something that means something to you. Like, I don't care about 50 of these columns, but I do want to know about albums. So it just helps me kind of blur out the rest of the rubbish that can be in these reports. But if you go to Bandcamp right now, download a month's worth of sales, it'll look vaguely like this. Just do your Control-A or select all, wherever it is. Insert a pivot table, hit OK, and go to town. Check it out. So, all right, let's move on from that. There's many things you can do with Excel, but pivot tables is a good way to make unmanageable data manageable, really. And I use it all the time. Now, the question, how many sales do we have? What time do we have? When we looked at budgets as well, you know, this is data we've kept for ourselves. You know, it's not from any source, but it's just a little spreadsheet you opened up and typed stuff manually. There's nothing fancy in here. Just to find out what your album budget was and what it actually ended up costing. This is good information again. Maybe you want to use this information like we did with the sales peaks and looking at how we can maybe improve on that next time. Your budget, again, we looked at how we went over on the recording or we went over on the promo spend. So, all right, we'll accept this is the new reality now. So the next budget I do, I'm going to look at these figures a bit more. So it helps us forward. So a little thing that we put together, I basically built it in a spreadsheet, but then decided it would just be a cool thing to have in general. And so this is on the White Sky website. You can go, it's not here, but if you go to whitesky.com.au and go to tools, I think it is this profit point thing. So this is basically, it started life as like a heap of data and kind of pivot table-y lookup type things and a few filters. And the question came from Joe Syme, who a lot of you might know, Paida, Hotel Motel, Big Scary. She was working with an indie label client. So this is Joe's life as a bookkeeper. Maybe you didn't know that about her, but don't hold it against her. She was looking at a client's sort of data and talking to this small label client. And the singular question they had was, how many streams and sales do I need to make if I spend this much on marketing? So that's a question that we've all probably asked ourselves, like, how do I get my money back? Or what am I going to have to do to get my money back? Because, you know, streaming is a bit of an unknown in terms of price. Not like a CD that's $12 or whatever it is. And there's a mix of formats as well. So we're going to do vinyl, we've got CDs, we've got digital downloads a little bit, and we've got streaming. There might be public performance income. There's a whole raft of things that come in, and really the little tiny point at the start of all this was, what do we need to do to make our money back? Or again, phrase the question differently. How much money can I spend on this artist and not go broke on? Like, again, small label, just looking at small things, and it's just a simple question. So that was our question, and we have data. So hopefully we find an answer for them. So this profit point thing, basically it's essentially that. What do I need to break even? I'll just go through this. It doesn't matter what you do here. We put in the genre field here because, again, we want to hopefully use the data that we've got to look at trends. So if you're looking at a mix of sales, we would like to, we don't know if this is possible, probably is to a point, but maybe again, it's not useful, don't know, but we put it in just in case because it's a starting point. But you know, if you're an EDM artist, you might be looking at 95% of your income is streaming and 5% is everything else. If you're a country artist, maybe, you know, 80% of your sales are actually CD sales and a little bit streaming. It can be different, like I think different genres or different audiences maybe consume differently. I'm sure that'll be greatly homogenized like everything else. At some point, we'll just be tapped into the mainframe and doing that. But until then, we're just interested in looking at what sort of genre can do. So it doesn't matter. Are you doing a single or an album? We'll say that we're going to release an album. Are we doing physical? Yeah, we're doing vinyl. We're doing only CDs. A bit of both. We're not doing physical. So we'll just look at a bit of both, CD, vinyl. And sorry, I should preface this, like this is not an exact science. This is a ballpark game. This is just so you're not ending up having to do 400 billion streams, you know, just because you didn't do a little kind of exercise like this. Bit of both and release name, whatever it is. All right, so we've got that information in there. That's just to sort of help us with reports later. So now what are we spending? We've got to look at what we're spending here. So we can go back to our budget. We can do that. So we want to look at, we're going to look at the actual column because this is what happened last time. So we'll go off this, maybe we'll bump it up a bit because we've got a bit more money. So recording, marketing, manufacturing, other stuff. So we've got studio, producer, so the studio plus the producer, so that's 37,000. And highlight those three, and you can see down in this area, see a little sum thing. But we're not going to do that because we know how to do pivot tables. That's where this comes in. So here we go. Select all, insert, pivot table. So what do we want to find? We want to find, we don't care about the individual costs. We want to look at the sort of larger groups of things. So luckily we've got a cost type column. If you don't have a cost type column in your budget and you want to do a pivot table to look at a combination of things, just add the column yourself. Give everything a type, knowing that this type can be looked at as a group later. So I've got our cost type here, cost type, drag it down to rows, cool. Looking at what we need the actual cost. So the actual cost, the money goes into values, and here's our figures. So, you know, instead of adding up these things individually or putting in like equals that plus that plus that. Oh, we've got other recording costs plus that plus that. That's our answer. We don't do that anymore because we love pivot tables. So that's a simple way to get that sort of information that you want. So recording, $55,000. Marketing and promo. So I've got that in two separate sections. So I can add that up. It's pretty simple. Or if I want to sort of over-engineer this thing, well, let's change to marketing and promo. And that way, I can just put all the marketing and promo under one thing, come back here, right click, refresh. Now I've got that down to one. So easy, makes things easy. We like easy. Marketing promo, $18,000. Manufacturing, $12,000. Admin could be whatever, your zero expenses, or I don't know, upload fees maybe. Could be anything, but you know, whatever, just put in a little bit of anything. So, all right, so that's what we're spending on this release. We're spending $85,500. We're putting a bit of information. We've told it that we're going to sell some albums. We're going to be manufacturing CDs, and we're going to be manufacturing vinyl. So if I look at view targets, this is what it's told me. Just So this initial thing, this is just a starting point, and this is all built from the genre thing, which is all completely arbitrary. It's just me making up things in my head about what genres might have what splits over different formats. But that, you know, to be accurate in any way, will take a lot more work, but it's just a starting point. So for our, and it populates your stuff on the side here, so you can go back and have a look at, you know, what you've got in your costs here. So for our $85,000, in order to basically break even, cover the costs on this thing, we've got 5.5 million streams, 23,000 track downloads, 847 download albums, and 900 physical albums. That's just what it spat out, but we'll call that bollocks, because no one's downloading music anymore to get your track downloads. So if I want to lower that, I know that I'm not going to do 19,000 track downloads. So by moving that down, it's going to increase something else to always reach that break-even point, because that's what we're interested in. We always want to get back to zero. $85,000 is what we've got to cover. So whatever we do here is always going to get us back to $85,500. It could be that you don't reckon you'll make that many streams. If I drag that back and say, well, all right, so we'll, I don't know, 3-ish million streams. What does that mean? I need 12,000 downloads now. And I thought, okay, well, no, still not going to make that. So every little thing you adjust here to sort of make these things look more realistic to yourself, it's going to adjust something else, because that money's got to come from somewhere to always reach zero. We don't think we'll do many download albums. That means the physical albums have bumped up. Well, we can't have that. We've got to take that down. It's going to push that up. We want the whole thing to go down. We need to do more streams to make the albums go down. So it's just a kind of little game you can play with yourself. Slide these things around and see what happens, and then see what looks realistic. And if stuff's starting to get out of control, let's say like, oh, there's no way we'll do these targets, or dude, we'll romp this in the first day, no problem. So what does that mean? It means you can go back and up your budget a bit. So, all right, well, let's spend $30,000 on marketing now and see what that looks like. So now we've got our figures, our sliders are kind of back where they were before, but now it's just adjusted all of the sales numbers to get back to our new total spend of $97,000. So it's like, all right, well, maybe we won't do 7.5 million streams, pull that down, too many track downloads, pull that down. We don't want to do any track downloads because we don't think that that'll work. So it's got to bump something up. So let's say half and half, physical albums, download albums, you get the picture. So, and then, so what I guess we kind of did stepping through was looked at our data analysis. We could take these figures here, the streaming stuff and the albums and track downloads, and then go back to our sales and see if that was the same for the last album. You know, we could do that here. We could look at so sum of earnings. We could look at units. So the sum of units, that's for all units. That's streaming and downloads and albums and whatever. So we'll take our format and put it across the top. I said across the top. And now we can see the kind of the unit sales or the dollar amounts. Unit sales per thing. So here we've got, in 1 year, we did 800,000 streams. All right. So maybe this is looking a bit rough. Maybe we've got to edge that down. So you see where I'm going. You can sort of use that past information to maybe help inform you when you're looking at how much can I spend on my album? What do I need to do to make that money back and not blow my budget and not go broke in the meantime? This is a kind of thing you can mess around with. Well, then the last thing I guess we added to this is you can have a look. We did our own little back of the envelope like analysis for the person using this, just to look at different scenarios, because nothing is guaranteed. You don't know exactly what you're going to do in terms of streaming or that sort of thing. But if we look at this is just putting in simple scenarios. So with this being our target, if we did half as well on the streams as this says here, then we're only going to make 94,000, not 97. So we're going to have a bit of a loss there. It's not a huge impact because we didn't put a lot of stake in streaming. If we jacked up streaming like this to say, all right, well, we're gonna die on this hill. We have to do the streams because we're not going to sell records and we're not going to sell tracks. All of our $97,500 is up here now. So if I look at the outcomes, if we don't do that, then it's going to hurt us. And again, if we do half as well on the album sales that we said we were going to do, well, it's not going to matter too much because we didn't put much stake in the albums, but we jacked that. We take that right down and then a little bit and head back here. If we do half as well on the albums, that's not going to be good for us. We've lost quite a lot of money because we put a lot of stake in selling records here. And then go through half as good on the tracks. We did half as well on the streams, but twice as good on the albums. That's a winner because we put a lot of stake in selling records. That's what you're going to do if you're not worried too much about streaming. If you're on the road and you're selling merch, you're selling lots of records, maybe this is your jam, you can see what might happen if you push that envelope a bit more. So, blah, 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 just examples. So I'm kind of running out of time here, I think. I'll show you briefly one more thing that I guess is that, but goes to another level. So this is the same kind of thing, modeling stuff, and it will all be based, again, on the data analysis that you can do with your own pivot tables and your own data from TuneCore or AWOL, whatever it is a deal profitability model. So just really quickly, recording. So this is, sorry, start, Matt. This is going to help an artist who's looking at signing a deal see if this deal is going to work for them, basically, with a bit of information, with a bit of crystal balling, with a few sort of, clauses that already might exist. And it can also help a label as well. If a label is looking to sign an artist, this could answer the question, how much of an advance could I give this artist and not go broke? Or what sales do I need to make for this artist to give them this advance? But unlike Profit Point, which is just straight up, this is kind of just dollars in, right? We're not talking about royalties. We're not talking about splits. We're not talking about distributors' fees, nothing. This is just how many dollars need to be earned or how many of these sales or exploitations need to happen so that $1 in is $1 that I've spent. This one takes the same kind of idea, but it puts it into more of a like record company scenario. So we'll just quickly do a thing, $50,000 recording costs. So it's 50% recoupable. So there are our costs for starters. And then forecasted sales. So there's no fancy sliders on this. You can just say we want to do 5,000 physical albums, 7,000 download albums, not many sales. Other, we might have some PPCA income or compilation income. How many streams? Say 1 million. So we're just putting in information at the moment. Let's just pick a number. So let's say the advance is $50,000. What are our royalty rates on this deal? We'll just say it's 25%, 25%, 25%, 50% for that. Sorry, I'm just racing through this because I've got places to go and people to see. If there's a distributor fee, if you're a label and you've got a distributor, maybe that's 15%. And is that distributor fee deducted from the artist, or is that something the label wears? Let's just say the label wears it. Got prices here you can mess around with. You can put in what you think you'll sell your record for, what the sort of streaming rate is, which is always hard to know. The recoupable cost, this is already populated from over here. It's worked out mechanical royalties as well. So it's just a little bit more sort of in depth, I guess. So once we put all that in, this is what we're looking at here now. So what happened? Well, so what's the outcome? What do we look at here? A lot of the time, what you'll see if you're an artist and you get a royalty statement and there's recoupable costs and advances, you'll see what the statement balance is. You'll see that you're this much unrecouped or you're recouped by this much. But what you don't see on that bit of paper is how much money is in your pocket as an artist. So that's the advance. And how much money is in the label's pocket after paying you that advance and after covering these costs, some of which are recoupable from you, but some which aren't, some that they wear. So there's not a lot of visibility in just a single royalty statement when it comes down to the profitability for each party. So again, if you're an artist or if you're a label in this thing, this is sort of telling you what you need to know either way. So with this information that I just completely randomly made up, we can look at, if we achieve these sales targets, what's going to happen? Well, the artist has got $50,000 because that's the advance. The label, it's not looking good because the label paid out $50,000 plus $120,000 of costs, half of which they had to wear themselves. So they're kind of in the hole, even though the artist is only getting 25% of the streaming and the downloads. And there's no sort of the net receipts here that we've got for PPCA. The artist isn't getting a huge part of the pie, the label is, but the label's still done its cash. And then the third column is like, what does the artist's royalty statement look like? So the artist has cash in their pocket, but their royalty statement says they're negative 53,000. Now that's because they've got to earn back that $50,000 from the label out of their royalties, and they've also got to cover some costs here. So this is the kind of scenario. And then I've just sort of set up, what does this scenario look like if the target is only 75% achieved? What happens if we don't reach the target by like 50%? So you can see as we go down, the label is, this is not a good deal for a label to be doing. Like, even if they do exactly what they said they're going to do, the label's still out of pocket. So you either reduce the advance for the artist. And so now, okay, well, if we hit that target, that's how much the label's putting in their pocket after they cover costs, after they pay the artist. That's what they're looking at getting. But if they don't do that, then there's big trouble. So again, you want to be able to sort of shuffle these numbers until you arrive at a scenario that makes sense for you, whether you're the artist or the label. And then out of interest too, just at the bottom here, it's all the same figures, but ignoring this royalty rate section and just looking at if it was a profit share, this is kind of what it would end up looking like. So that's just a quick look at this kind of profitability modeling. It's the sort of stuff we do. And it's sort of, you can use, again, going back to your budget from last album, look at what you spent, plug that stuff into here. You could have your record, your royalty statement that shows you all of those costs that a label put forward, and plug it all in, and then it pops out at the end. Right, so I think I'll wrap it up because that's been like an hour and a bit, so I won't hold you all up. I think there was a question, sorry I didn't get to all these. I was sort of intending to maybe go through. But sorry, I'll just have a look through. Which we need to explain to everyone about cat number errors with +12 at the end is a case it's not a number format. Yeah, cool. All right, so yeah, so sometimes there's long numbers, like a catalog number might be something like, I don't know, lots of numbers, and then it ends up looking like this. That's not good to look at. You don't want to see that. A, you don't want to see that, it makes no sense to you. But B, it'll, like, in certain scenarios, this could be dangerous because sometimes you resave a document with something like this, and instead of being, you can see at the top here what the number actually is. Sometimes if you're unlucky about things, it'll actually change that, and it will just change it to something like this, which is not the number anymore. It's the wrong number. So everything you do is wrong at that point. But quite simply, you can highlight a column or an area, whatever it is, you can right click and format cells here. And so to format cells is simply just converting it to something that you want to see. So it's a number, you don't want any decimal places because it's a catalog number. You don't want a 1000 separator, you don't care if it's red or black. hit OK, and then you're looking at what you need to look at. So now when you save that document, it's not gonna look at it as some alien from another planet. It's gonna know that it's a number and it's gonna do that. Example of the basic identifier and audience is based. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, you can look at, so Opal's sort of talking about the correlation between configuration, format, units and income, with geography as well. So looking to target audiences in specific areas. You know, like at a really simple level, if you've got your sales data here and you happen to have a column that has country in it, then you can do that with your magic favorite thing now, pivot tables. And if you want to, you can look at that stuff again, like could be over time, where I put it, could be the sort of sales over time, or it could be, you know, by country on a pie graph, that sort of thing. There's a lot of ways that you can sort of chop this information. The pivot table is kind of the how, and the why, I guess, is up to you as well. So if you're saying like, yeah, I want a tour, where's the best country to go to? That's my question. Use these tools to maybe look at where your sales are greatest, or yeah, the country you want to go, where you want to do marketing to sell more records, maybe in a country. So that can all be, yeah, all looked at in your little data collection here. How far back can chart metric go? I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not a huge expert on those things. I just know they exist, so I kind of wanted to throw it out there. Maybe you can make a note and explore it yourself. But cruise on in there. You could use this to see which social media performs best sales in which territory. Break it down by age, viewer demographics. Upload in a pivot table, break it down, time of day. That's from Gabs. Yeah, that's right. There's, you know, any of those data points that you want. Time of day, how old your audience is, where they live, what their favorite color is, what time of day it is. Or if you've got that information in a nice set of columns and whatever, breaking out your pivot table allows you to group those things and look at them simply. Favorite colors down the side in the rows area, favorite colors down there. Then maybe have time across the top, so you can look at, you know, the sales by people who like yellow in the month of June. Like, if that answers your question, then you can do that. But I guess it's the question that you want to establish first, and then hopefully look at the data to get your answer. Yeah, lots of slicing and dicing to be done. So I think that's kind of most things. Is there any other questions that anyone wants to sort of just shout out now?
Thanks so much, Matt. There was so much in there. I feel like I need to go back and absorb it. So that's all from us today. If you'd like to have a look at what else we're doing, have a look at our website, which is vmdo.com.au. Thanks, everyone.